Welcome
Or welcome back
to the Womanly Podcast,
where we embrace womanhood in its entirety.
from the hard and awkward conversations
to the silly and embarrassing moments.
An effort to reclaim and redefine what it means to be womanly in this crazy, wacky world. I'm Delana, the neutral one.
I'm Katie, the morbid one.
And I'm Madeline, the other one. And we're so excited that you've joined us today because there's room for you at our table.
So, grab your favorite drink and let's have a conversation.
So, how's everybody's 2022 going so far?
Mine has felt conflicted.
Conflicted.
Yeah, like, because I have had like this strong feeling like I should be doing more than what I was already doing. And don't get me wrong, I love what I do for a living. It's awesome. And it's a very fulfilling job. But there was just something that I was like, I just like feel like I'm supposed to like have my own thing.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I also felt like incredibly at peace outside of work. Like I didn't really feel like I needed to be working on anything. But then there was like this overarching, like, but I feel like I know that I'm like, to use Christianese, like I'm called to do more.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really like using that language, but
Yeah.
it's the only language I know.
I know.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Meant for more.
yeah, that's a good way to
Yeah.
say it. I meant for more, and I was like, I don't know what that is, and then this podcast came together, and
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know, maybe.
Cha-ching.
Yeah. I was like, this kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
I feel like that's such a
yeah.
common thing, though, especially in America, that it's like if you're at peace or you're kind of
It's
just
wrong.
It's wrong, right?
Yeah.
Like you're not hustling enough, or
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you're
Especially
not
in the
doing enough.
Christian community. If you're
It's-
comfortable, it's like not
Yeah.
a good sign.
Yeah, exactly.
If
Yeah.
life isn't traumatic and painful, you are doing it wrong.
Yeah. There is
you
a
aren't
little
going
underlying
A little bit of that,
attitude.
right?
Yeah.
If you aren't going through trials and tribulations every day.
Are you even saved?
Yeah. If Satan isn't knocking on your door every minute.
It's so true, though.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
There's a lot of an attitude about that. You know what? I think God's pretty chill when you have like kind of just nice moments.
Yeah,
He wants
seriously.
us to.
God forbid. Jeez.
Yeah. For me, it's been a slow start to the new year. Just waiting for my new job to kick in, and just in that season
The
of like
in-between,
the
yeah.
in between feeling of
I
like
hate the
not
in-between.
feeling useful, and overall I'm excited for what 2022 has in store, and the new job position and this podcast in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think overall it's been a pretty good start
Feels
to the
like
new year.
there's-
I'm glad that 2021 is behind us.
Yeah.
I can say that.
Yeah.
So
I think most of us can.
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a weird start for me. I feel like the last really like 3 years for me have been super hard, personally and obviously universally, but personally, yeah, they've been not some of the hardest, but definitely the most difficult that I've had so far.
I
So
can relate to that.
yeah, so and a lot of things go into that, but mainly it's like mental health, and then having lost my job with COVID, and kind of like having to kind of restart my brain on where I'm at and where I'm going and stuff like that has been just really difficult, especially with who I am as a person, which will, obviously personality goes into it. But my first month of 2022 has been really interesting in that I feel like I'm just kind of itching for things to start and change and all of that, and it's just not happening quite that fast. So, but otherwise, yeah, it's 2022, new year, new beginnings.
New year, new beginnings.
Yep.
Am I right?
22 is my lucky number, by the way.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm, it is.
There's a whole story. You guys will hear about that later.
Yeah, we'll have an episode about the number 22,
Ooh.
maybe.
We'll just call it.
We
I don't know about
probably
you, but
will,
I'm
though.
feeling 22.
We probably will though.
Why not?
I'm down.
This time we're talking about personality tests and zodiac signs and astrology and everything.
I am an Aries. I am a type 3 on the Enneagram, and I am an INFP, but I am like right in the middle, like almost directly in the middle of being introverted and extroverted.
Okay.
I am, so I could easily cross over into ENFP.
Yeah.
So I've taken the test 2 times. One time I fell into ENFP, and then one time I fell into INFP.
Interesting.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
Which is funny because I feel like most of the time I feel pretty introverted. Like I just don't want.
This is gonna be a fun episode.
I just want people. I just want people to leave me alone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I've got thoughts on that, but we'll get to that later.
Same.
Okay. It's interesting.
Okay. Cool. So that's me.
All right. Well, what is your astrological sign? Since Delana
Oh yeah. What are
brought that
your?
up.
Oh yeah. I'm a Virgo.
Oh, my stepdad is a Virgo.
Okay. Yeah.
Cool. So you're-
Virgo, and Bryce is
your husband.
Bryce is my husband. Yes. And he is a Gemini.
Ooh, controversial.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel like you're just saying that right now. Like
No,
you're
no.
like, he
No,
is?
I'm serious.
He's a Gemini. Do you
Mhm.
know about Geminis? Okay. Yeah.
We'll
That's
get
okay.
to that.
We'll get into it.
And your Enneagram.
My
Six?
Enneagram is a 6.
Okay, how do you say Enneagram? Is it Enneagram?
Enneagram.
Enneagram? Okay.
Yeah.
I feel like every time I try to say that word, my brain just kind of clicks off and forgets. Like, I don't want to sound disrespectful to people who work really hard to put that, that
Yeah.
information out there, but my brain literally trips over itself trying to remember what the pronunciation of that word is. So, personality tests, they're super prevalent, right? Like,
Yeah. Almost. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, but almost to an annoying degree.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
I think so.
Yeah.
I would agree.
I think it's because people make money off of them. Like, I think
Do
a lot of,
you?
yeah. I mean, especially the Myers-Briggs, like, they make tons of money on it.
Oh, for sure.
I think like
How do they
2 million.
make money?
Because to take the actual test, you have to pay $50, like the full
Yeah.
test.
the full on like
That
Yeah.
feels like
into
not a very
detail.
good business model.
Well, and then people will get trained to be like givers of the test, and they'll go to businesses and
What?
yeah, so they make a lot of money.
Oh my gosh, I forgot. There's another test that I know. Have you heard of the DISC test?
Mm-mm.
Oh, okay. So I had to take that for whenever I got hired for my current company. It's like a personality test, but it's like how you are within the workplace. And which I'm super thankful for. That was the first time that I had ever had a boss care enough about like, okay, how do you operate within the workplace? You know, like what works for you? How do you need to be communicated with and stuff like that?
Cool.
Yeah,
And so it was all for that intention of like, how can we best serve each other?
yeah.
You know?
That's so
And-
admirable
Yeah.
of like a company to do that.
And so I had never heard of the DISC test until he asked me to take it. And so he has everybody take it. And I am a pretty even across the board. D stands for demanding. I stands for... It is, dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness. A lot of people replace conscientiousness for cautiousness. So
It's an interesting substitute.
yeah. So dominance is the style is both bold and skeptical. So my boss is a high D. Like
Yeah,
he is like power. And that sounds like he would be super controlling or something. He's not. He's just really impulsive.
yeah.
And then influence. I have a high I and a high C. High C.
Yum.
Yummy. We need
But
to take a break, guys. We need to go get some high C.
yeah, seriously. Influence, the style is both bold and accepting. And then S is steadiness. The style is both cautious and accepting. And then conscientiousness is the style is both cautious and skeptical.
I
So-
feel like conscientiousness is too much of a word. Like, they could have stopped somewhere in there and it'd been fine.
Yeah.
But they just kept
conscientious.
going.
Yeah.
Conscientiousness is
Yeah.
too much of a word. The funny thing that you mentioned, though, because personality tests are actually super common in the workplace. And in fact, the very first time that personality tests really started happening was after World War I. And they started using it as a way to assess the psychological damage or trauma that had been done to returning soldiers. So, yeah, so they've always been used in a workplace setting. I feel like these
know that.
days, yeah.
I feel like this way, yeah, these days it's the opposite. Like, it's mostly used in, like, a personal setting and then...
Yeah, because I've
seldom
never
used in the
actually
workplace.
had to take it. There are people who take tests like as a part of a job application. I've heard about that. I think I might have had to do it once or twice for an application, but that never really went anywhere. So I guess I did it wrong. But I've done it multiple times, having gotten into a job and been in a company for a little while. The organization as a whole, they would bring somebody in and we'd all do an assessment. Have y'all ever heard of Strengths Quest? Yeah. So I did this in college, and then I did this in my first full-time job after school. And it's really interesting because I think, there's probably like, I'm going to get this so wrong. There's like 28 different strengths or something like that. And they basically, you take this big assessment and then they give you your top 5.
28 is a lot.
It is a lot.
That sounds like they're like unnecessarily breaking it down too much, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, Myers-Briggs is the same way, right?
Oh, is it?
I think so. Isn't it like 30?
But it would be like 30. Oh, so like 28 different combinations essentially.
There's basically, so like Strengths Quest, my top 5 at one point was like individualism, intellect, ideation, and then 2 others. So like they have basically different strengths, and then you fill out the questionnaire and everything, and then it tells you what your top 5 are, like the things that you reach for the most as your strengths and who you are as a person. And they'll talk about how like the top 10 are really your strengths, and at any given point you may swap like your 2 and your 8, but really your top 10 are who you are, and your top 5 at that given time is who you really are. So I've had to do that in work, and what was really interesting is that whenever I took it in school, I think like my first semester, freshman year, little 18-year-old me took it as a part of like my basic communications course. So I took it then, and then I took it, I guess at that point, it's probably like 5 years later, and I was in the midst of doing my master's degree, and I was working full time, and my strengths completely changed because I'd grown so much over those 4 or 5 years, and I was in a totally different phase of life. And it was all about like how I feel like in that one, it's a good one because they take environment into account on the questions that they ask.
Oh, okay.
Right? So my answers and my results changed so drastically because my environment was so different.
That's so interesting.
And I feel like Myers-Briggs doesn't do a very good job of taking an environment.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But Myers-Briggs is the number 1 most used personality test in America.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised because I feel like it's like almost common knowledge. Like everybody knows what Myers-Briggs is.
Yeah.
And most people know what their type is.
Yeah. I'm an INFJ.
Okay.
Which is apparently like 1% of the world's population.
Yeah, that one's a rare one. Yeah.
What are you?
INFP.
Yeah.
But leaning towards, like, I've taken it twice, and one time I got INFP and one time I got ENFP. So, because I'm like right in the middle of introverted and extroverted.
I don't know what mine is.
It's okay.
Yeah, that's okay.
It's okay.
Sorry, guys.
It's kind of a long test.
Yeah,
so.
it's a long one. I think it's like 96 questions or something. Like it's upwards of 90 questions. So in depth.
Yeah.
If that's you pay the full amount. Yeah. So Myers-Briggs is actually developed by a mother and daughter. And they did it based off of Carl Jung's principles, but they're not like psychologists or anything. Which isn't a huge deal, but because you can do a lot of research and stuff and still know what you're talking about, I feel like. Yeah. But there's certain things that, like with the Myers-Briggs, that like a lot of psychologists and stuff don't think it's a useful measure of anything because it's very binary. Like whenever you fill it out, it's either this or that. There's no spectrum or continuum that you rank things on. And so the vast majority of people just think it's kind of crap.
But I've heard the opposite as well, where like people, especially if you're comparing it to like astrology.
Oh yeah.
Because it's like astrology is like, this is what you're born with.
Yeah.
And then Myers-Briggs and Enneagram and stuff like that, especially people within the Christian community are like, oh yeah, but those are true because you have to test.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But like, as far as all of these tests go, really, they only tell you what you tell them. Right? So like whenever you're filling out a questionnaire and everything, you can answer it as truthfully as you think, but it's only true in that moment.
And it's also like, just like any other test, like literally any test of any genre, it's how you ask the question.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That can bring out a totally different response.
Yeah, for sure. I think as far as like an entertainment side of things, which I think a lot of times it's used for that. It's used for workplace. It's also used for entertainment, right? That's why like the BuzzFeed quizzes are so popular, because people just really enjoy figuring out what kind of pizza you are. Like we just like we like qualifying ourselves, and we like being able to just like describe ourselves to other people without having to give them like, I don't know, like
the whole spiel.
Exactly.
Have you guys heard of Maslow's law? Maslow's hierarchy? Yeah. Where he talks about one of the things that human beings want and need is subjective, but is status. Yeah. And so I think qualifying that word that you used made me think of that.
Yeah. And that's how a lot of it is used, because I think there's pros and cons to it, and I kind of made a little bit of a list of pros and cons of personality tests. I think one of the things that's nice about it is that you can bond with other people over it. So to an extent, right? So like I feel like me being INFJ, if I find another person that's INFJ, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. Like, oh, we came up with the same. And you're going to find that I'm talking to them that you have similar personality traits. But then you're going to find out that you're different too. So it's not like everybody who comes up with the same thing are cut from the same cloth, because that's literally impossible.
Yeah. It's not like every INFP loves Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Right.
You know?
Yeah.
That is something we cannot relate on. Or can.
Yeah. Or can. Right. So I think whenever you kind of get down to that side of things, that's definitely a positive to I don't know, it's like a cult following with these personality tests. And I feel like the same people who take them every time and like really make it their, I feel like you get a result and some people make it their whole personality. Yeah. That's who they are. Right.
Ironic. Whole personality.
I tried to avoid saying it, but it just, there's no other word.
It's the only word. But it's also like, it's just like anything else. Like you have an interest, like I said, Lord of the Rings, you have an interest. That's a point of connection, you know, of like you two know about this thing and are interested in this thing. And thus you have this thing to relate on and to talk about. Yeah. And so it's just, I feel like I totally agree. It's like the same thing with personality tests. Okay. Yeah. Oh, you're on the Enneagram thing right now, you know, like, oh, me too. I'm a type 3, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. You get to like talk about your similarities, differences, and just the overall concept of it.
Yeah.
On the other side of that, though, I think it can be divisive, and I think it can be deflecting. Like I think some people, and I kind of noticed this about myself whenever we did any sort of assessment in a workplace. You know, you're gonna have people that you really get along with and you enjoy, and then you're gonna have people that you don't so much get along with and don't so much enjoy. And whenever you find out, like through these assessments, that they have the people that you don't get along with, you figure out they have a similarity to you in some way. You're like, no, they don't. There's no way. Or you see that they score high in one particular category that you're just like, no, there's absolutely no way. Like that's fake, like I feel like it can get really toxic to a certain extent, because or even and we'll talk about like Zodiac and all of that, but I feel like you see people when they talk about certain signs that they're like, ew, no.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
It's just, it seems so strange to me that you would
like
put so
Gemini,
much stock.
apparently.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So Geminis do tend to, and this is the thing, we can have a whole different conversation about like generalizations.
Oh yeah.
But Geminis like literally their sign is twins, because they tend to be two-faced. And so that is not true for everyone, especially, but I had more of an adverse reaction because my dad was a Gemini.
Oh, okay.
And he was a horrible person, by the way. But also I had another person that I knew that was a Gemini that was also a really horrible person.
Bryce is wonderful.
But Bryce
He's wonderful.
Bryce is
he is so far from
sweet.
two-faced.
Yeah.
He's a one-faced kind of man.
And so that's where I think it kind of like,
for sure,
it is very like your reaction to things are definitely influenced on your history with people, for sure.
Yep.
And if you're really in tune, like I didn't really grow up knowing much about Zodiac stuff, and astrology and all of that. Like I remember there was a period of time in middle school or something that I would look up the horoscopes in the paper, and I'd read them because I was 12 or 13. I'd be like, oh my gosh, is this how my day is gonna go? And they're written they're so general. They're so general that you read it and like, you know, it's like, oh, you know, you'll have a good conversation today and whatever. And it's like, I did have a good conversation today.
I don't like horoscopes.
Yeah.
I think that there's some truth, my personal opinion, I think that there's some truth to zodiac signs. As it could very well be that I grew up in it. Like my mom was so into astrology, and I actually her, and because of her and I both grew up in very heavy Christian home, you know, a lot of conservative Christianity, and
it's interesting that she was so into that, though.
Yeah, because
like we both grew up in very conservative Christian households.
So it was witchcraft,
very,
you guys.
Yeah, well, not so much witchcraft as it like. Well, for me anyway, it wasn't witchcraft.
Make
it was just
believe,
like,
not
why
real.
would you follow the stars and why would you, you know, all of that. It was more like a pagan thing.
Literally God's creation.
Yeah, I know.
Exactly.
But it's like, so my mom felt really conflicted about that because like there was this thing where she was like, I feel like so drawn to this thing and I don't know why. Like she didn't know why she was so drawn to astrology, even though she, like, everything that she was telling her and from what she knew the Bible was telling her, quote unquote, the Bible is telling her, you know. And so she was like, why am I so, you know, drawn to this thing that still is like, it means so much to me and I don't know why. And so she actually eventually came to a point where she was like, you know what, everybody says that this is like witchcraft or evil and all this stuff or meaningless. And so she was like, you know what, I'm just gonna put it away, you know, and just be done with it. And then even though that wasn't like what she felt like she needed to do, it's just like what everybody else made her feel like she needed to do.
Yeah.
And then she, and this may be a little woo-woo for some of you guys, but like she then went to go to sleep that night and she like closed her eyes and she describes it as like she wasn't like fully asleep yet. Yeah. But she wasn't like fully awake. It was like that in between. And she saw like this picture of like this thumbprint and all of the planets and the stars spinning on the thumbprint. Whoa. I know, like chills. I get chills whenever I think about that. Cool. And then so from that, and then she just like woke up and she was like, had this feeling like, okay, I don't think like, yes, this can be taken too far and stuff like that, but I feel like some of this is by design is essentially how she came to feel about it because of that. So.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's really balanced. And that's kind of like my opinion on all of this, personality test and Zodiac, is that like for entertainment purposes and like as a way to find meaning and stuff, it's totally fine. But whenever you take it to the extreme, that a lot of people do, where
it's like predicting your future, and
or like you can't marry somebody because they're, you know, like the love compatibility or whatever like that, like
because Gemini and Virgo
are not compatible.
Not go together.
Yeah. See, we're Cancer and Scorpio, which apparently does, but it's like I don't know. I just don't think that it's smart to make your decisions based on on all of that.
I totally
And I think
agree.
there are a lot of people who do. And
it's like,
what are you missing out on?
Yeah,
that
they're
you're
like
so based on these.
They like go out on a date with somebody and they find out they're whatever, and they're like, "Oh, I can't be with you."
I've heard stories of people like
I have too,
dating apps and stuff like that. Who I've never been on a dating app. I'm not married. I've been with my guy for 8 years, but like, and I don't ever want to go on dating apps because they seem scary. But I've heard of a lot of people that will like have these qualifying questions whenever they match with somebody. They're like, "Well, what's your sign?" And it's not just it's not just women, it's men too. Like there are some men out there who will ask those questions, like, "What's your sign?" or "What's your Myers-Briggs?" And then depending on the
decide
answer,
on that.
That's
like the deciding factor.
Yeah.
So I have a funny story. Everybody. Most people that I have met that are like super into astrology, every time I tell them that I'm an Aries, they're like, "What? You're not crazy."
That's how I feel about like Cancers. Like they're especially supposed to be like crying every second of the day.
Yeah,
that's how it feels like it's described a lot.
Yes, my little brother is a Cancer through and through. Like he is very emotional. Yeah, very like he cries easily, stuff like that. And I think it's the sweetest thing ever.
Oh my gosh.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain things that I'm like, sure, but then obviously it's true of all of them. It's like I'm an Enneagram 5, but then whenever I see some things with 8s, and I'm like, oh, that's me too. And it's just, to me, everybody's on such a spectrum. It's a continuum. It's not like binary, like a lot of these things would have you think that you're either this or that. You're either, that's the whole idea of like introvert and extrovert. And then this new thing that's coming around the last few years is ambivert. And I'm like, literally everybody's an ambivert.
Oh my gosh.
Because you're not either introvert or extrovert your whole life. Like it's a spectrum. Depending on who you're with, depending on how you're feeling, what you're going through.
Yes.
You're gonna be floating around on the spectrum at any given point. So we're literally all ambiverts.
Yeah, because like growing up, I felt like I was so introverted, but really I just had like mad social anxiety.
Right?
Like mad social anxiety. And then I went through a period where like I grew a lot from my social anxiety because I had gone to therapy for several years and stuff like that, and it really helped me work through a lot of the stuff and become like more confident in myself. And then after that, so I became like super extroverted for a while. Like every time I had free time, I like wanted to see people and stuff like that. Like I just had this energy and I like always wanted to see people, which was so unusual from anything that I had known of myself growing up because of all my social anxiety. Yeah. But then now I'm going through this season where like I tried to categorize myself as like an extrovert, but now I'm in the past like 3 years of my life and I'm like, no way I'm an extrovert. Like, but I think that's also just been seasons because right now I'm in a season of like trying to really be in tune with myself and like what I actually want and not like expectations or perceived expectations of others.
Yeah. So that's good. I think it's interesting because whenever you have conversations with people, like we've all known each other to a certain extent for a long time now. And so like meeting you, I definitely, like if I were to have to put you on either side, I definitely would have said introvert.
Oh, really?
Yeah, okay. I would have. Yeah. And then you, Katie.
Most people say extrovert. That's why that surprises me.
Yeah, I would have said an introvert for you, but Katie, I would say extrovert. But knowing her well, she is definitely more on the introvert side. I think the extrovert side is a little bit more of like performance, a little bit.
A little bit of a mood.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like I gotta be in the mood.
Yeah.
It's that energy thing where it's like I have to be in the mood to want to be with people. Yeah, but I'm definitely more on the introverted side. And like in high school, I would definitely say that I was way more on like the extroverted side. Yeah. But as I've like, grown in my skin and like been, through some life a little bit, I feel like I'm definitely more on the introverted side and just like to take it slow. Yeah. And like really downsized my friend group as well. Naturally that happened. So like it's sort of just a thing that I'm okay with.
Yeah.
It's like
you get more comfortable with the people you have too.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So and that's, again, like I said, it's a spectrum. In my opinion, it's a spectrum. And whenever you go through life or you've been through life, you're just going to change.
Yeah. And I would definitely say, knowing you all these years, I've always pegged you as an introvert for sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Which is, I don't know. And I am. I feel like I am more on the introverted side. But yeah. Then at the same time, there's a lot of things and qualities about me that I think people would. And that's the other thing that frustrates me is that there's certain like character traits that people associate with with either side. And it's like, if you're introverted, then you hate public speaking. But I'm like, I don't mind public speaking. Or if you're extroverted, you're super obnoxious and loud all the time. And it's like, not everybody who's extroverted is like that. Right. So that's kind of where I really encounter some difficulties with it, with, wanting to go full blown on it. There's a book that I want to read right now. I can't remember who it's by, but it's called Quiet. And it's about introverts and about the people who are kind of like introverts of history and like really famous people who would, most people would qualify as introverts who have made waves and who have, like why they're so important, because I think most people think that extroverted people are the ones that make a difference. Yeah.
No, ma'am.
No.
It's the
No.
introverts.
I think it's both. We can be fair and say I think it's both. But yeah, I'm interested
No,
in
it's
reading
the intro. No, I'm just kidding.
so I'm interested in reading that book and kind of hearing what they have to say. But I'm a little bit nervous because I definitely don't go all in on the introvert extrovert.
We need
Definitely not the ambivert side of things.
No, we need a good balance of introverts
Mhm.
and extroverts. But
Well, I think everybody you have
Yeah.
to strike that balance within yourself
Yeah.
too, and be okay,
Okay.
with either
for
way.
sure.
Okay, y'all, this could be a whole friggin' topic in and of itself. I was trying to pull up try to enter in your birth date so we could figure out like your rising moon,
Oh, yeah.
whatever it is. But I gave up. So
We'll do
Couldn't
it. We'll do
figure
it
it
later. Yeah.
So I feel like your introversion versus extroversion does depend on seasons, a little bit on personality, and then obviously history, stuff like that. All
Yeah.
those play a really big role. But then also I feel like there is like this boom of like all of these friggin' introverts.
Yeah.
In this
It's
day
like
and age,
being romanticized.
because it's romanticized, but then also because I think that the way that social media is like wiring our brain is that as an introvert, it's really easy for us to socialize, quote unquote,
Yeah.
if you can't see me, socialize, I'm doing air quotes, because whenever you get on social media, you feel like you're socializing, but there's not anything expected of you.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
you don't have to actually engage in a conversation, but you feel like you're being social.
Yes.
And so then whenever you get into an actual social setting, there's now this gap in your mind between how you're used to socializing at home and then how actual socializing is, whereas it is this take and this give, and that becomes more draining on you.
Yep.
Because you're used to socializing on your own, quote unquote,
on
you
social
know,
media.
on social media,
Yeah.
which doesn't require any energy from you because
Yeah.
you just get to consume
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
conversation, if you will.
Yeah.
And then
You feel like you're keeping up without doing the work.
exactly.
Yeah.
And so there's nothing expected of you. There's no return from you or anything like that. And so, yeah, I think that a lot of people categorize themselves as introverts because now we have been wired to socialize on our own.
Yeah.
And so whenever we actually socialize with other people, it feels draining.
Yeah.
Yeah,
when
it's
that
just-
in actuality, that's just socializing.
Yeah.
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 Oh my gosh.
I will say that I have a friend from college who I don't know how she does it, but she could literally be out with people 24 hours a day, every
Not
day
get
of her
drained.
life. And she doesn't.
Yeah.
Like she just
I have a friend
doesn't.
like that, too.
She's amazing. And she lived in New York City for a while. Alex, hi, if you're listening. She lived in New York City for a while, and then now she's out in LA, and she is just kicking butt. But I mean, her lifestyle, she's just constantly going. And I envy her energy. Like she literally just goes, and it's amazing. But
Yeah.
Yeah, I have one of my coworkers who is also a friend of mine. He can be like, if I'm on Zoom calls for more than like, I would say 4 hours is my absolute max, like throughout the day. Like
that's a high.
once we
threshold.
hit, I couldn't do that every day by
Yeah.
any means, but once you hit the 2 hour mark, okay, we're
Yeah.
getting there, you know.
Yeah.
But like if I absolutely had to, I could do 4 hours and still have energy for the rest of my
Mhm.
day. But I have a friend and coworker who he could be on Zoom calls for 8 hours,
Yeah.
and he would come to the end of the day and he'd be like, I'm so pumped, like he gets energy from
Yeah.
it, and I'm
Oh
like,
my
I can't.
gosh.
Yeah. I can no.
I would say, I don't know. Again, it depends on where I'm at mentally,
Yeah.
whether or not being alone fuels me
Mm-hmm.
and gives me energy, or
Mhm.
if it's being with people.
Yeah.
After this, I'm probably going to be like, wow, I'm going to be energized. Like, that was
Yeah.
cool. That was fun. I love being with
Yeah.
them.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm like not in the mood, it's so hard for me
Yeah.
to like
Mhm.
engage in conversation and like be a person.
Mhm.
But
I totally understand.
you
that.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's the
Yes.
weirdest thing. It's like a
Yeah.
switch
Yeah.
flips. And
Yes.
you're like, I cannot see people today.
Yes.
Like, I can't do people.
It also depends on who you're going to be with.
Yes.
Yes.
For
Yeah.
Oh
sure.
my gosh.
Mhm.
100%. If I'm with someone who is just talks the entire time, you know,
Oh my god.
I leave.
They just like to hear their own
I
voice.
leave from that conversation, and I'm like, I don't want to see another person for a week.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but it's
Which is so funny because like we all talk the entire time we're together,
I
but it's not
know.
draining.
It's a different kind of conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like in the kind of conversation I'm thinking of when we talk about that is,
feels like somebody's just talking at you.
yeah, talking at you. It's not so much a conversation. Whereas the three of us, I feel like,
It's not a give and take.
Have y'all ever been in a situation where it feels like they're having a therapy session on you?
yeah, yes.
Oh my God.
That
yes.
is
Yeah.
that
I'm
is
like,
the
there
type
are-
of conversation
there are people you
that
can
I'm
pay
talking
for
about.
this. I'm not getting paid.
And I'm like, I never really want to hang out with you again
Yeah.
because
Have a
that
whole
was so
story.
exhausting. You owe me $250.
Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. And I'm not qualified.
Yeah.
But you still owe it to
Yeah.
me.
You owe me for my listening
Yeah.
ears.
Yes.
I didn't give you any advice because you talked the whole time.
Yeah. That can be a lot. That can be a
I've
lot.
only had like
And
a
they just-
few situations like that, but I mean, I just come away so drained
Yeah.
from that. Even in my high school years when I had so much energy and like was stoked to like hang out with anybody and everybody all day
Yeah.
long.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I were to have one of those conversations, it would be like, I did not like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
people don't enjoy being talked at.
But
Yeah.
so many people just really love talking at people, though.
I know.
Like, they just like talking about themselves and their lives, and they think that that's what real connection looks like,
Yeah.
right? And
Mhm.
that, I feel like that's a personality thing. Like, there
Yeah,
are certain
for
people.
I feel like it's an anxiety thing.
That too. That could.
In what way?
I think it's like it's a learned behavior.
Yeah.
like
Yeah, for sure.
like some people just they learn.
That's how they've been taught to connect.
They've either been taught how to connect like that,
Or grew up.
like
and-
think about funny example, but like the Kardashians, for example, the way that they socialize with each other and talk to each other and pick on each other is so different than like what. And I can draw that example because I actually. This is gonna sound so weird. We can cut this out if you want to, but Sam met one of the Kardashians at school. It's not like one of the Kardashians, but he met somebody who's like a cousin to the Kardashians. His last name is Kardashian. And we went over to their house, and he lives in Santa Monica, and we went over to their house, and literally, like, you think, oh, that's just how the Kardashians are on TV.
Yeah.
We went over to his house, and no, that's how like they are. That's
Yeah.
like how, and his family was not even like the Kardashians that we know. It was
But they're
just
related, right?
they're related
Yeah.
to them, and they literally talk like that to
Yeah.
each other. And if anything, they were like more harsh and more like poking at each
Yeah.
other way more
Yeah.
than what you see on camera.
Oh my gosh, that
and-
would be so exhausting.
Exactly, but to them that's like energizing. Like that's just how they've learned to
They get
connect
energy
and
from poking
communicate.
at each other and
Yeah.
like making fun of each other.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And like it could be a whole different conversation on like if that's healthy or whatever, but I feel like there's an extent of it that's learned behavior.
Yeah.
That's just like this is how I've learned how to socialize with
Mhm.
people, and so this is what I know to do.
Yeah.
You know, and then the other side of it is I have 100% seen people who like it's really hard for them to sit in silence because it makes them anxious, and so they just fill the air. And
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is true.
That is one of my pet peeves.
mm-hmm.
I can't stand.
Especially
people
when
like
you're
that.
trying to like think about like what you're gonna say next, like you're just like I need to like think for a second, and then they just keep talking, and you're like I'm never gonna be able to finish
I'm
or
never
figure out
gonna
my
be
thought.
able to
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
say what I need to say
because I
Yeah.
can't even figure it out
Yeah,
because I can't
because-
think.
because by the time they have talked about this subject, they're on to something else. So like your mind's
yes,
just
exactly.
like
You're like
reeling.
10 steps behind them.
Yeah.
you're like on a thought from 10 minutes ago, trying to figure out like what you would have said 10 minutes
Yeah.
ago.
Yes, exactly.
And then you're like, and then you start to feel like, am I just slow? Like,
Am I like stupid?
yeah.
We can cut that
Does it
out.
really
Yeah.
take me that long to think my thought?
Yeah.
That's so real. Ugh.
It is it's funny though, because it makes me think, like with personality tests and everything, because kind of talking about that, how different it can be from family to family. Like within my family, there's 5 of us. We are all so different from one another. And anytime we've taken any sort of assessment, because my family's interested in those, anytime we've done it, every single one of us are different from one another. And so I think to a certain extent, obviously, like a lot of this, as far as how you interact with people, is learned. But then whenever you get down to the nitty gritty of like what makes up your family, it can be so vastly different. We've done tests that have like 4 results, and there's 5 of us, and every single one of those results is in my family to some extent, which is really just fascinating. But
yeah, I feel like that's one of those, like, you know, we talk about the nurture versus nature dynamic, and I feel like the world kind of balances itself, right? And so like within a small group of people, you're going to have people that fill different shoes because that's the role that they like fall into. Yeah. Because somebody has to fill that, you know.
That kind of comes to birth order a little bit too, because my being the middle child, almost all of every single time I take a personality test, like, and that's kind of the cool thing about them that I would put as like a pro. And the nice thing about them too is that it like helps just facilitate like introspection and reflection on who you are as a human being and how you interact with other people. At the baseline, to me, that's like the best part of personality tests and Zodiac and astrology, is just that it helps you kind of take a look at yourself and your motivations and your personality traits, and just really kind of understand who you are. No, I don't think that you should ever I'm not a labels person, so I don't like putting myself in a box, especially whenever I'm meeting new people. Like, I don't want to put anything out there and just say, oh, I'm an Enneagram 5, I'm an INFJ, because then that's less work that I have to do and that they have to do in order to understand who we are, like as individuals. So I just don't like labels. I think it just makes things too easy. And anyway,
and I feel like, have you ever had a conversation with somebody where they'll like explain their behavior by being like, well, I'm a type 3 Enneagram, so this is how I work. And I'm like,
it's like the deflection thing.
It's like there's not necessarily something wrong with that, but at the same time,
you're just making excuses.
At the same time, it's I cannot wrap my head around like wanting to be confined. Yeah. And I think that's what you're talking about, like putting yourself in a box. Yeah. Like, okay, this is what this thing says that I am, but really I'm whatever the heck I want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how I feel about it, is that like, I remember whenever I was young, I read about one of the things with Aries is that they deal with anger issues. Yeah. And I've never feel like I've dealt with anger issues. Have I felt angry? Yeah, I felt. Who hasn't? Felt angry?
Yeah, who hasn't?
You know, have I had things to be like long-term angry about and had to work through? Yes, I have had that, but I've never like dealt with anger issues. If you think of like the general definition of an anger issues. Yeah. I will say though, I'm very stubborn, and that is the sign of the Aries is a ram, and so like
mine's a crab.
I don't understand that.
I don't understand that one either. I was
crabs are very emotional.
So they cry all the time.
Crabs are known for crying.
They're a little crabby.
Oh. There you go.
That's it.
No, but yeah, I think that the ram is very true in most, I will say a lot of Aries scenarios, because I am very stubborn and very like, I am totally the person that like will spearhead things, you know? And so whenever you think of a ram, like ramming through stuff, that is me. Like I will just, there's a wall there? No problem. Just bust right through it.
There won't be in a moment.
Yes, exactly. We'll see.
I think it's, I think it's sad when people define themselves from like their personality traits and like, you know, like the zodiac signs and whatnot. I think
it's just an option.
I feel like it limits you, right?
I feel definitely limits you to who you can really be. You know, like,
yes, thank you. Yes.
I mean, how could it not?
Right.
when you
If you
I
take
think
it as truth.
Yeah.
if you take it
Yeah.
as truth and you're
Not
like
just truth, but like ultimate
Yes.
truth.
Ultimate truth. Yeah.
you were born this way
Yeah.
Mhm.
and you're not going to change, you might as well embrace it. That's really sad when people really do like
Mhm.
believe that
Mm-hmm.
this is who they are,
I
Yeah.
know.
which is just so not. That's not what it should be.
Yeah.
about.
You
Well, it
guys-
doesn't leave room for
Yeah.
growth.
No,
Yeah.
not at all.
The world is bigger. You are bigger. Like and I feel like there's just constantly new versions of yourself that are going to come out, and
that just excites me personally.
Exactly.
Like,
Yeah, just like you
Yeah.
were saying about how 5 years later you took the test again, it was completely different.
Yeah.
Like
it's like that
we
shows
are
how much
meant,
growth.
we are meant to shift and grow and change. Like if that does stay the same,
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of like
I feel like that's like
it doesn't serve you.
it.
like that's not how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Dare I say, if it doesn't change, that's kind of weird.
It is
Yeah.
weird. Yeah.
You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
There's
Yeah.
something wrong.
But for
Yeah.
those of you out there who maybe have taken the test 5 years ago and 5 years later,
Yeah.
it's, similar or,
Yeah.
the same. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like,
No. Yeah.
there's so much more room for growth, and that is not who you are. Like, you
Yeah.
aren't defined by,
You know what?
astrology.
You know what I think is so sad about all of it, though? Like, no matter what, we're talking about astrology, Enneagram, Myers-Briggs. I don't even know what the fifth one is, by the way.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, funny enough, on the top 5 in America, it's Myers-Briggs is on there, but Enneagram and all that isn't. Yeah, yeah.
What?
So
Okay.
the other
wait, can we come
4
back to
Yeah,
that?
we'll come back to that.
Okay, so because I want to say this, what I think is so sad about all of it is that it highlights that in humanity there's obviously this craving for I don't feel deeply understood,
Yes.
and I need to feel deeply understood.
Yes.
And you don't realize it until you read like a personality profile and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, that's me. I've never even heard something that describes me so well.
Yes.
And
And
it's
you
like
feel
enlightening.
understood all of a sudden.
Yeah, it's enlightening about yourself, but then you're also like, oh my gosh, it's addicting because you get this emotional return from it that
Yeah.
you don't get from anything else.
You
Right.
feel seen
Yeah.
and like understood. Yeah.
And like
that's-
if we just all made each other feel that way all the time, we probably wouldn't need it.
Right.
exactly.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, if
Yeah.
we validated each other and like
But then
lifted each
again,
other up.
I've thought about that too. It's like there's a difference between I've never experienced what you've experienced.
Right.
But I believe that it is true and real,
Mhm.
and I completely validate what you've experienced, right?
Right.
Mhm.
And then somebody actually being able to say like, yeah, I know exactly how you feel. Like that's you feel like this, you feel like this, you feel like that. And when somebody can tell you how you're feeling, then it's a completely different story because
Mhm.
you're like, wow, I didn't even have to say it and you understand me so well.
Yeah.
Right.
Like there's a different dynamic that comes into play
Yeah.
and a different sense of like emotional return.
Yeah.
Yeah,
get from that.
because it's an actual person. It's not just like the deep dark abyss of social media or the internet.
Yeah.
It's like an actual person who told you that.
But also
Or-
like if somebody can say what you're feeling without you having to say it, there's this connection.
Yes, that's
right?
exactly right.
And that's
Yeah.
where I think that connection was always so special.
Mhm.
Like you hear people talk about that within their relationships, their friendships, stuff like that. Like, oh my gosh, like we don't even have to say anything and we know what each other's thinking.
Yeah.
It's like a point. It's like a badge to wear, you know?
Yeah.
And because it means so much to humans to have that kind of emotional connection.
Yeah.
Well, and like the thing that comes to mind whenever you mention that, and it's such a silly anecdote, but like Cord was in my car. We were driving. I can't remember. It was one of our trips recently.
Cord is her boyfriend.
Yeah, my guy.
Yes.
But he was in my car, and so one of my things that like the past 3 years I've learned about myself and am still working with is that I suffer from a pretty significant anxiety disorder. And I've been kind of like learning about that and managing that trying to manage that the last few years. But in the midst of all of that, there's just been things that he's seen about me that I haven't necessarily seen. And one of the goofy examples I can give is just like sometimes my car will get really trashed out and I'm not like, it's not my top priority to take care of that because I'm just going. And we were like in a Whataburger drive-through, and there was a couple of bags or something in my car, and he was like, well, we're going to throw this out. I was like, okay. And he said, we were just kind of bantering back and forth anyways, this whole story. But at one point he was just like, I just think that you get so overwhelmed that certain things just kind of slip through the cracks, and you'd feel better if this was taken care of. And it was just so sweet. It was such a good moment. And I was
gosh.
It was like something that obviously I experience the overwhelm, and I see how it affects my world. But whenever you're in the midst of it, like, you don't acknowledge it, and you don't deal with it the way that you should until you're kind of on the other side.
Yes.
So to have somebody see you in the midst of it and see how it's affecting your life in the midst of it, and say, like, this is something that you could do to make things better.
That would have been a totally different experience if you were like, well, I deal with anxieties, I have all these things going on, so sometimes things just slip through the cracks. And you told him, and then he was like, oh, okay, I get it. Versus him immediately picking up on, you know what, you've got all this stuff going on, I understand, you don't even need to say anything, let's just take care of this. That would have been a totally different experience, right?
Totally.
And so that's why I feel like personality profiles are so big, because it gives that same emotional connection or return, whatever you want to call it, where it's like, oh, you see me, I don't even have to say anything.
Exactly. Well, I think that's why people post it all over social media and stuff. And I think, I mean, obviously with everything, there's a good side and there's a bad side to it. But like, I'm thinking again, like, there's a person I know that they want to put themselves in every conceivable box that they can. And you will know every allergy, every, you know, this and that, their whole life story and everything within a day or two of knowing them, because it's all over their social media. It's everything they talk about. And I think behind that, there is a desperation to be known and understood, and to have their struggles, I don't know, not so much voiced, but acknowledged by other people. And to me, that desperation is such a turn off, like, and it's not necessarily, I don't know, it's not necessarily something that, like, to me, it makes them a bad person, because it doesn't. It just shows that there's something lacking there that they're really desperately looking for, and not everybody, but there are people who make that other people's problem. And I'm so much at a point in my life right now that I don't want any other person to be my problem. Like, I'm enough of a problem for myself. So just, it's tough for me to take a look at that and feel as though I should be responsible for, you know, giving them that validation that they're looking for. And so many people are looking for it.
That's where I want to say, like, you can't be God.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, because that's really whatever your beliefs are, you know, like, that kind of fulfillment is not something that another human can give you.
Yeah,
right.
because the other person's not fulfilled either.
Right.
Exactly. And we're looking for it in our own ways. But honestly, to be, like, super harsh, whenever you get to the point where all you're doing is assigning numbers and letters and words to who you are instead of actually being who you are, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
Like, I know that's harsh to say, but for me it just is, because like I said earlier, it doesn't leave room to guess, like, the excitement of getting to know a person and having those connections of, oh, you're a middle child, I'm a middle child too, or, oh, like, you've experienced this, I've experienced this too, and just the normal conversation that you have, and what the three of us really kind of had a lot growing up. I feel like pre-social media, that's just more of what makes connections and conversations exciting to me. And whenever you throw a bunch of labels and boxes and things like that on yourself, I'm like, okay, well, I know everything I need to know, right? Like, you've taken the excitement out of it.
Yeah, there's no room for excitement or
I feel
curiosity.
I feel like that becomes, like, if I've learned anything through therapy.
Yeah. And I hope you have.
Lots and lots. 8 years of therapy. Yeah. It's that, like, those things become like, this is what I'm willing to share with you and connect with you on, but I'm not willing to share with you the hard, the deep, the emotional
The
stuff.
thing that
It's
makes me this.
Yes, it's like the thing that makes me this.
Yeah.
That is such a good way to say it.
And I'm like, I want to know the thing that makes you this. I don't want to know.
Yes,
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like this is boring to me. Like I want to know, and I don't feel like anybody owes the thing that makes, the thing to me. Nobody does. But to me, that's what makes relationships so
it's whenever
rewarding.
Yeah, it's whenever you're trying to hand me this as the explanation.
Exactly.
And that's whenever you're like, you're only like, you're keeping me at arm's length.
Yeah.
You know, which is fine. Like, everybody can have their boundaries.
I have my times when I'm like that for sure.
Yes. Like, and there are going to be certain people that you feel that safety to open up with and stuff like that. But I don't feel like it should be your go-to.
Yeah.
Like, I'm personally okay and super comfortable with not being known by most people.
Yeah.
That's just obviously that's a personality thing, but that's just who I am, is that like I struggle with social media a lot. Like, I'll go through and I'll shove a bunch of people off my social media regularly because I'm like, I don't want this many people following me.
Yeah.
I don't want, like, I want to be able to share intimate parts of my life with the people that I actually like care to know these things.
Yeah.
I don't want it to be randoms on the internet. I don't want it to be people that I haven't talked to in
I have to tell you
5-10 years.
Yeah.
And I will like regularly go and shove people off, and then I don't mind unfollowing people either. Like, I know that I did that recently where I kind of got rid of like half the people I followed. And to me, there's a lot of comfort in that, and there's a lot of safety in that. And I think obviously that probably goes back to my anxiety, but I just don't have, and I'll just acknowledge here now that I don't have that need to be so known and so understood by everybody I encounter, which is probably why whenever I see somebody with that need, it's difficult for me to understand. And it's difficult for me to connect with that person because that's just not something that we share.
Yeah.
So I know I can be harsh with that, but I'm just recognizing that I'm just not the same. I'm not the same in that regard whatsoever.
Yeah.
Is a big distinguishing factor.
Yeah. I remember a while back you had told me or you had said it in a group setting or something like that, where you said, I'm just a very private person. Like, I don't, like to follow a lot of people. I don't like a lot of people following me and stuff like that. And at the time I had my public Instagram that I was working on and a YouTube channel and stuff like that. And so at the time I was like, I literally had like this cognitive dissonance whenever you said that, where I was like, why not? Like, where I was like, I literally was like, I could not understand that concept because I had never felt that. And then I'm realizing now that sent me on like a whole spiral of like, totally, well, why don't I feel that way? Like, why do I feel the need to put everything on display?
Yeah.
And that's whenever I like through a whole series of events that was related to. Wow. Yeah, I know. You had no idea, right?
No clue.
I had not even pieced it together either.
Oh my God.
And like that was related to. And then I was like, oh my gosh, like I've been doing so many things for the display of it, and that's where I've now have come into the season of my life where I decided, like, I announced publicly and guys, it was like literally right whenever my YouTube channel was growing and right whenever my Instagram was growing, you would think like, oh, now's the time to like go harder. Yeah. But I came to this point where I was like, I was totally reevaluating everything. And I had felt like this kind of turmoil for a while that I was trying to figure out why I felt that way. Cause I felt like I was doing something that I was passionate about, but for some reason the passion wasn't there.
Yeah.
Sounds so stupid, I know.
No, it's not though.
It's not at all.
And so then I came to that point and I was like, I don't think that I'm in tune with myself as much as I think I am. Yeah. And so that's whenever I was like, you know what? I'm going to put this to bed, maybe forever. I don't know, maybe not forever.
Yeah.
You know, who knows? Who cares? It's not anybody's business.
Yeah.
Is for the first time I felt myself saying like, it's not anybody's business. And like, I wanted to go and make accomplishments and get promotions. I still have a major promotion, by the way, that I haven't shared with anybody outside of the people that I see in my real life, you know, and on a regular basis. Like, it's not even something that I share with strangers unless it's kind of like the conversation comes to it,
right?
You know, and so it's been incredibly healing for me to like be able to just kind of pull back and be like, what do I want in my life? And if I shared nothing, what would I want? You know, if I didn't feel the expectations of others or the perceived expectations of others, what would I want? And the easiest way to start to figure that out is just to not share any of it. If nobody knows anything about you, then you can really be like, okay, what feels right? You know?
Well, that's a nice thing. And it kind of like what we've been talking about is that if nobody knows anything about you, then they're going to ask questions.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah.
And so whenever you lay it all out and you're like, I'm an Enneagram, blah, 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 and this is my Myers-Briggs, and this is my Zodiac sign, and blah, blah. Whenever you lay all of that out, it's like, what else is there to know?
Yeah.
And I don't know. That's just kind of where I come from on it. But at the same time, it's like a lot of people really engage with that. And for me, I wouldn't necessarily ask questions about those things, but we mentioned earlier that people who are really, really fascinated by the Enneagram and they've read tons of books or they're really into astrology, if they see somebody else that is too, they have so much to talk about. Whereas for me, I'm like, my sign is Cancer and it's a crab. And that's literally all I know. I don't know anything else but those two things. And that's the extent of my ability to have a conversation on it. So I love listening to people be passionate about things. And I think you can be passionate about these things for sure. I just think that there's definitely a balance to be had with it. And I think if you're making it your entire identity, and if you're not able to see outside what these things are telling you about yourself and about others, and see that it's so much more complicated than that, then you're losing out. Yeah, that's just kind of where I'm at with it.
Yeah,
I agree.
The only other thing that we didn't talk about is love languages. I think that that's kind of interesting as far as personalities go.
I have a whole thought on that.
Do you want me to go for it? Yeah, go for it.
The love languages. Okay, so I had read the love language book.
Yeah.
And I don't remember who had recommended it to me, but
it's such a big thing in the Christian community.
Yeah, it is.
Huge thing. Massive. Yes.
Who wrote it?
I can't remember.
I don't know. Gary something?
I can't remember.
I think it's Gary something.
Gary, good job, Gary something.
Good job. You caused a problem.
Freaking Gary.
God, Gary.
It's always a person
watch his
Gary.
Name. Watch his name not even be Gary.
It's like
we're gonna call him Gary.
It's gonna be a woman or something.
I know.
If it's a woman, then go girl.
Except no. Stop. Calm down.
Go do something different, girl.
Yes. You know all those books that are like, girl, wash your face.
Yeah.
Girl, stop apologizing. Stuff like that. It's like, girl, stop.
Yeah. Just full stop.
Just stop. Anyways, so there, it was my therapist who had done our premarital counseling, and it was also my mom. My therapist was just kind of like, you could tell he didn't want to like influence our opinions, and so he was just kind of like,
yeah.
You have your thing with it, you know, type of thing. And then my mom said something that at the time I was so into it that I was slightly offended by, of course, because whenever you're that into it that, you know, you're going to be like, anybody who speaks against it, you're going to be like.
That's honestly my big fear about recording this right now.
Oh, who cares?
Yeah, very true.
Yes, there's literally, if I've learned anything from being public on the internet, there's nothing that you can do right.
Yeah.
Literally nothing.
It's true.
Nope.
It's true. That's why I keep things private, because then it's easier.
I know, right? You don't have to deal with it. So my mom was like, I just think that the love languages is like whatever you're lacking in your life, that's what feels like your love language. Like whatever is, if you have a relationship that is full of everything except for physical affection, you're going to feel like your love language is physical affection or anything else, you know? And so I thought about that and I was like, At the time I was offended, but now I'm like, I could actually see that, you know, as I've gone through like a lot of different relationships and stuff like that. There are some things that I know are like, this really means a lot to me, you know, and then, but outside of that, the other languages, if you will, feel like they shift and they change, and it's like,
you have like a number one, right? See, like for me, it's funny that you're on that side of things, because for me, love language is the one that seems most like relevant and not really accurate, but it seems to be one that so my love language is quality time, like big time.
Okay.
I am not a physical touch or a gifts person whatsoever.
That's funny.
I can be very good at giving gifts. I don't really enjoy getting them, but like quality time is my thing. Which is funny because I've been in a long distance relationship for a very long time. But it's just like, I feel like there is a lot of like good information that comes from it, and understanding kind of how people, whether it be those four different ones or not, but understanding how other people give and receive love, I think that has a huge impact on how you're in a relationship with somebody.
Yes.
But I don't think that you have to, like, I don't know, like, it is a spectrum. Again, everything's a spectrum. Like, there are times that I get a gift and it means so much to me that I've gotten that gift. But I'm not always, like, 9 times out of 10, I'm not going to feel that way. I'm like, oh, it's just another thing that I have to store and keep. But, or, like, I don't feel a lot of
pretend
pressure.
that I like.
Most of the time there are things that I like, right? But, like, there's certain, like, I'm a person who just loves gift cards. Like, a lot of people are like, gift cards are boring. I'm like, no, gift cards are good, because then I can get things I actually like. But, so I'm like, yes, give me gift cards. But there, to me,
Thank you.
Yeah,
that just registered. I just processed what you said, so it's kind of a delayed reaction. But like, I don't know what's the problem with gift cards. Whenever you buy somebody a gift card, it's like you feel kind of like, is this a cop out?
Yeah.
So I think that's why people feel weird about it. But whenever I get a gift card, I'm like, hell yeah. Get to go buy whatever I want.
So unless you're somebody like Cord, who literally never spends a gift card he has ever given. Never.
Oh, that
which is
bothers me deeply.
It's a huge problem up until the point that they made it so that they don't expire. But like, he just I tell people, do not get him a gift card, because he will not spend it. And it's a family thing. His brother's the exact same way. They will not spend gift cards. I don't know why. It's like, to him, he says it's like not real money or something. What? I'm like, somebody paid money for it. You've got money sitting there.
Dude, that's free money.
So I don't know. It's funny. It's just funny how people kind of interact with those things differently. But I do think, to me, there are things about love languages that I really appreciate, because there's been moments with the whole, and I haven't read the book, so I won't say that. But there have been things with kind of learning about the love languages and stuff like that. Like, my family is super touchy-feely. They are. They're so touchy-feely. And whenever I'm around them, it's like they want to hug and they want to kiss on your cheek and all of that. And I'm like,
that's
okay.
how Sam's family is.
And it's not something that I enjoy, but I know they enjoy it. So because they enjoy it and it makes them feel good, I'm like, okay, I'll let you have this, right?
You are giving back to their love language.
Yeah. So like, to kind of recognize that that's something important to them, and that makes it easier for them to connect with people and feel close to somebody, I'm gonna allow them to have that. Or like, if I know somebody who is like, if Katie, using it as an example, was really into gifts or something, and I knew that was her love language and how she really appreciated somebody or connecting with somebody. I'm not a gifts person, and I'm not going to feel that way, but I know that she'll appreciate a gift from me. So I feel like there's a lot with that is really helpful and useful, and I've enjoyed kind of learning about those things and think about it in relation, like, as far as my relationships go. But again, I treat it the same way as I do any of this stuff, where it's base level, it's great, but whenever you go ham on it,
take it as like the friggin' Bible. I think that, like, the general idea of love languages is, like, the principle of it is really beautiful, in the sense of, like, the whole idea is that I am recognizing that you are different from me.
Yeah.
You think differently from me. You've had past experiences differently from me. And thus you, different things mean more or less to you because of that. Like, it's just a general, like, I am understanding that you process life differently.
Yeah.
And I am willing to meet you where you are.
Yeah.
And to me, like, that is so beautiful.
It is. Yeah.
And that is how it should be.
Well,
Yeah,
it's kind of
for
a great,
everything.
Yeah.
a great representation of our relationship with God.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're giving back to someone else's love language, it's like you are, I mean,
You're
yeah.
serving them.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
serving their desires and their needs. And I feel like that's
In spite of what your desires and needs are.
exactly you don't get anything from it.
Mm-hmm.
You might not get anything from it except for maybe joy of being able to give that back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or and the
learning
joy,
to have joy in somebody else's joy.
Yeah.
Yes.
What-
Which I feel like
exactly,
is so
you
important.
took the words out of my mouth. Yeah. Receiving joy from seeing someone else's joy
Yeah.
and being able to experience that and have a place in that and
Yeah.
giving
Yeah.
someone else,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
fulfilling someone else's desires.
So I know that like love languages aren't really technically personality, but I think to an extent they are. And I just wanted to mention that in the midst of all of this because to me that speaks so much to human relationships and interactions so much more than pretty much any of the other assessments there are out there.
Right.
What's interesting about it is that at one of my previous workplaces, there was somebody who took the concept of the love languages and they turned it into something that can be utilized in the workplace and have like workplace languages basically. So obviously like physical touch wasn't one of them. I can't remember what they replaced it with, but basically
Sounds kind of like the disc, to be honest.
maybe. But so you had the 4 and gifts was 1, quality time was 1, and they weren't worded the same. Words of affirmation was 1. And then I can't remember.
Can food be one, please?
Yeah, food is definitely a love language.
Dude.
I can't remember what the 4th one was, but whenever we were doing this, I couldn't help but think like, why?
Yeah.
Like, why would you take something like love languages and try to apply it to the workplace? Because all you're doing is basically removing physical touch, which should not happen in the workplace. And I cannot for the life of me remember what they replaced it with. But like the whole time we were doing it, I was just like, this is kind of dumb.
Yeah,
Like,
I believe that.
it's a kind of a reach.
I believe that love
That is
languages.
probably not the disc. Because the
Yeah.
disc doesn't feel like a
Yeah.
reach.
Love languages are meant for
Interpersonal relationships. Yeah.
and that's it. That's
Yeah.
relationships.
Well, they didn't call it like love languages
Yeah.
in the
Well,
workplace.
I would hope not.
No, but it was basically like it was derived from that. Like they saw the love languages, they saw this idea that what it was, and they said, "Hey, what about this but in work?" And it's like, no, that's not what it's meant for.
Yeah.
Like you missed
You're
the
like,
point.
You're like, you know what? Keep being ingenuitive.
Yeah,
But
girl, stop.
let's move. Yeah, girl, stop.
Girl, stop.
Let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move past that idea.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah. Oh, I was going to ask you, do you know what your love language is?
My love languages are gifts.
Mhm.
They're gifts. And probably nope.
Oh,
Not anymore.
Nope.
Wow.
I've changed.
Wow, she's grown.
See, she's grown.
She's grown.
It happens.
It's possible.
It used to be touch, physical touch and gifts.
Mm-hmm.
And now it is gifts and
Quality
something about
time.
doing some
Acts of service.
Acts of service.
acts of service.
Yeah, I forgot about that
Gifts
one.
and acts of service.
Sam's is acts of service.
So all
That's
this
his
time I've
number
been
one.
saying there's 4 and I've been so wrong. So.
I'm pretty sure Bryce's is definitely physical touch and quality time.
You like the guys who like physical touch.
Yeah, I do.
Mine.
What can I say? Even though I don't like,
Yeah. Yeah.
super.
Yeah.
She's like, I'm not interested, but I like that you're interested. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next.
No. I find that when we do pay attention to each other's love languages, I see a difference in the relationship.
Yeah.
In all aspects of relationships, whenever you
Yes.
are intuitive to each other's
And
love
that
languages.
is where I think that it's not really about the love language.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the fact that the love language just gives you an excuse to pay attention to how the other person perceives situations.
Yeah.
And that is why it has been so healthy and helpful to so many relationships, because it's literally just taking you out of your own shoes, you know, for once. Like, God forbid humans get out of their own.
It is. And now that you put it that way, it makes me think that the reason why I enjoy that one so much is that it's the only one. Well, not the only one, but it has such a focus on somebody else in addition to yourself, whereas so many of the other ones
are just
used and popular because it's just self. Now, I will put add a caveat to that, because in the workplace, a lot of it is organizational. Like, whenever they have everybody take the assessments, they'll put together like an org chart of this is where everybody falls and this is how your organization works and looks. But I don't know that everybody gets down with that. I feel like we go
it's
because
not
we
that
have
cut and
to.
dry.
And I just don't. The times that I've done it in a workplace setting, it just doesn't get touched again. Like, it's an 8-hour day that you spend at a conference table. And then you walk away having learned a little bit. Maybe you but basically all it does is it just kind of like reinforces what you already knew about the other people that you work with. And then you just don't use it again. So I think love languages for sure is the only one that like shows real return on what you've learned.
That makes sense.
Because all the other ones that I've ever done, like, yes, I can pull the knowledge that my results were this and that and this and that, but ultimately for me it doesn't affect much, whereas love languages does. And of course that has a lot to do with the fact that I let love languages affect things for me. And so it's a lot of how you like use it and put it into effect. But I just feel like it's just different from the rest of them.
Yeah. Well, because the whole intent of it is to, how can I better serve somebody else?
Yeah.
Exactly.
You know?
Like, how can I enhance my relationships with this knowledge?
Yeah. How can I make my relationship more, bring more connection, bring more joy, bring more meaning.
More excitement.
Yeah, excitement, everything in between. Whereas all of the other ones are like, how can I figure myself out and then try to get everybody else to look at me,
understand me.
Understand me.
Yeah, understand me so you can love me better and like look at me the way that I am.
Yeah.
And like understand me.
Yeah.
And then that way you can like, you know, really know me.
Right.
And serve
But
me.
you really actually don't know them.
Yeah.
And there's no like, there is virtually no incentive. There is a little bit, because I think it comes naturally.
Yeah.
But there's virtually no incentive to say, who are you?
Yeah.
How can I connect with you better?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And it's like, oh, you're going to tell me that you are an Aries and that's how I can connect with you.
But then you have like 5 Aries in a room and all 5 of them are totally different from one another.
different.
So like you really don't learn a whole lot by just that
exactly.
one word anyway.
Yeah.
So what's your love language and yours and
Mine
Sam's?
is Sam's is his number one is acts of service. I don't know what the other ones are. I just know that acts of service is a big one for him. He used to be more physical touch, but he's not as much anymore. Like whenever we first
most
got
people
married
in high school or like late high school or physical I was not. I was like, do not touch
Same.
me.
I was never. It was like at the bottom.
I always was. That was like my
a lot
ultimate.
of people around that age were
That
a
was
little
my
bit more
ultimate.
We're all just
touchy-feely.
hormonal.
Yeah. I was like hugs all around. I might even hug you twice.
I might kiss you. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna kiss you on the cheek.
Yeah. But my number one is words of affirmation.
Yeah.
Always has been. I think always will be, because not to get too deep, but my dad never I think I heard him say that he was proud of me maybe twice in my life, and it was like pulling teeth, whenever he said it,
because he had to,
because everybody else was saying it, and because it would be like after a school play or so, they'd be like, I'm so proud of you, and then he'd be like,
struggling big time.
I'm
sorry.
And so it's fine, guys. I've been through 8 years of therapy, so we're
Still,
good.
It's hard.
But yeah, so it was that, and I think just generally that probably played a big role in it. But like in my household, there was not a lot of like words of affirmation in there. It was all just like assumed.
Yeah.
I assume that you love me.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
And stuff like
We're
that.
family. That's what family does.
Yeah, right. And so I remember even a couple of times, like some family members, whether it was my dad or a brother or something, they would be like, you know, I love you, right? Rather than just saying, I love you, you know? And it's just kind of like,
do you?
Yes.
It's like, you know, I love you, right? And I'm asking you that question because I don't say it enough.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
exactly.
I don't show it
because I
enough.
have guilt behind this question.
Yeah.
So no doubt that is why. And then my second one would be gifts as well.
Yeah. Well, now I
And-
know that I need to give y'all gifts. So this is a good conversation.
But it's like, I don't know if this makes it better or worse. It either has to be like really meaningful, you know, like thoughtful in the sense of like, oh, you really know me, you know, like because you thought about this specific thing.
Mm-hmm.
Or it has to be more expensive.
Hey, you can be bougie.
Yes. Because it's like, if it's not me, at least this is how the pressure that I put on myself when I shop. So I'm assuming this is how I feel about other things.
Mm-hmm.
If it's not very thoughtful, like if you buy me something, like if you buy me a sweater, for example, and it's like not really my style,
Yeah.
and or anything like that, I'm like, thanks, it doesn't really mean anything to me. I mean, thank you for getting me something, but this feels like you got me something because you had to get me something, or you were trying to fill the bag or something like that, and not because like you actually thought that this was something that you
would
know
like.
me. Oh, I saw this is so Delana, like blah 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 blah. Get it for them, you know. And or if you couldn't do something really meaningful, and so like you just go out of your way to spend more money, then it's like, I must really mean something to you if you're willing to spend that much on me.
Yeah.
You know, and so that probably sounds horrible, and I feel like
I'm tracking with you.
Yeah.
okay.
That is 100% how I feel. I don't feel guilty about that.
Like I would just rather somebody not get me a gift if you're going to get me something that just shows how much you don't know me.
Yeah. I would just rather somebody not give me a gift, full stop.
Girl, stop.
Girl, stop.
I
Like you just don't know how to take it.
I just don't put a whole lot of value on things. And like the things that I want are really boring, and I buy them for myself. Like I wanted an electric toothbrush, so I bought it for myself.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to give me an electric toothbrush.
Yeah.
You know, like I just don't want, there's very few things that I want somebody to give me. And a lot of times it's like the things that are most meaningful are like if somebody gives me an experience, or like,
that's
why
how
don't
Sam
we
is,
buy,
actually.
why don't we buy tickets to go to this basketball game or to
a
this
movie
concert or
to Hawaii.
like, but to me
A nice
that
dinner.
goes back to the fact that my number one is quality time. Because
that makes
Right.
sense.
instead of just handing off a gift and being like, here you go, and
you
I'm
want
like, okay,
quality
great,
time.
I'm like, well, why don't like buy me, I'm not saying buy, it's not an instruction, but whenever there's quality time attached to it, it means
Madeline
so
is laying
much.
out the rules right now.
Yeah.
By the way.
Yep.
Court of hearing. Kidding. He knows. But it means a lot to me to get something like that, because I know that it's something I look forward to. I appreciate it because I know that we're going to be able to spend some time together.
Yeah.
Doing
and
something that at least I enjoy, but maybe hopefully something we both enjoy doing.
Yeah.
And for me, going back to like the giving gifts and receiving gifts, for me, it's like pure joy when I give something to someone.
Yes.
That is,
Oh my
that
god,
they're
my
gonna
favorite
be
thing.
stoked
Yes.
about.
Yes.
Yeah.
That is, like, I can't keep the secret.
Yeah.
Like
I
I'm
know.
like I
I'm
am
dying.
like, gonna throw up
Yes.
over how excited
Yes.
I am to
know
give
exactly
this
what you're
gift.
talking about.
And like as a person with that love language, the the receiving and giving of gifts, it's so much more than receiving to me.
Yes.
It is the giving that like just like
More,
sends me.
Yes. And do you like put so much pressure on yourself to get
So
someone
much?
Like I either got to get them something like they're going to open this and they're going to be like, how did you even know? What the heck? Or they're going to open it and they're going to be like, wow, you care so much about me that you spent that much money on me. Like that is the pressure that I put on myself.
I know.
And I'm like,
I get that to an extent. I do because and it can be exhilarating. And the person that I do this with is my mom. And one of the best gifts that I've ever given in my life is she loves hiking and doing high pointing, which is if you're not familiar, is whenever you go and you hike the highest point of a state. And she went on a trip once, and I think she was in Minnesota or something. And the hike that she did wasn't very long, but she spent most of the time taking pictures of mushrooms. She just loves mushrooms. And so she came back with literally hundreds of pictures of mushrooms that she took pictures of, on the trail. And she came back and she was so proud of her pictures. And she like flipped through every single one of them with each of us in the family to show us her mushroom pictures. And we're like, what are you going to do with all those pictures? Like, why did you take these? And we just didn't get it. But for her, there was so much joy in it. Yeah. And this was several years ago that she went on that trip. But last year for her birthday, I had this great idea where I made a picture book out of all her pictures of these mushrooms.
I think you told me about this.
And it's like so a beautiful, expensive, it looks like a coffee table book, but it's full of her pictures that she took of her mushrooms. And I was so excited and so thrilled to give it to her because I knew, like, we had teased her, like, what are you going to do with all these pictures? Yeah. But now, like, her pictures are combined in a book. She literally cried whenever she was flipping through it. She was so happy. And like, it's just completely changed her. Like, she gets so excited anytime I give a gift now. And the nice thing about gifts not being my love language is I don't feel pressure, even though that like is now the standard. Yeah. Like any gift, I put thought into her gifts because it's easy to give her something. And I feel like, to an extent, maybe not everybody can feel this, but for me, I feel indebted to my parents because of just how much they sacrificed to raise us the way they did. And so it's just so special to me to be able to give her something that means so much. So I totally understand that, even though that's not a love language of mine. For her, it's such a special thing.
I one time got a gift from a friend for my birthday that was like, it's like this sweatshirt, and it has like a drawing of a cat on it, but it's like one of those drawings where it's like one line and it like follows all the way through and it makes the shape, and I got it and I was like, I don't really like this so much, but I love like how thoughtful it was. And so I love it just because like if it wasn't so thoughtful, I would have never picked it for myself.
You would have never gone to Target and picked that picture out. But
I wear it because it was so meaningful to me because she thought about how much I love my cats and like just love cats in general, and she bought that for me, and it was like kind of artistic in that way, and I was like, not my style, but I love it anyways, and I wear it because of that.
It's so sweet.
That is,
and it's not even like I'm doing a favor for her. It's like because she obviously thought about that. It like meant so much to me.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm starting to think now. I'm like, the other things that I would like to be gifted are like really soft fuzzy blankets or food, because either of those means I'm gonna have some quality time.
Yeah,
love that.
Right? Because there's nothing better than cuddling up with a fuzzy blanket or having some really good food.
Speaking of, you mentioned how you would rather be gifted an experience over quality time, and I am actually the opposite.
Oh, really?
Because, and here's the thing, at first I was like, why the heck wouldn't you want an experience over like a physical item? Yeah. Because I love to travel and all that stuff. Like, it's so important to me. So literally I've had like this cognitive dissonance where I'm like, why does this mean so much more to me than like an actual experience? And I realized that it's because if I have a physical object, it lasts forever.
Yeah, true.
And if I have an experience, it comes and it goes, and I may have pictures and
it's
stuff
like
like
the
that.
Object permanent.
Yeah, but if I have something that means a lot to me, that is an object, like I get to have that thing for as long as I take care of it and keep it.
Yeah, or something that you love that you can wear all the time or something like that. or
Yeah.
like a nice perfume or like
Yeah. It
a
doesn't
ring.
it doesn't really have like a hard timeline on it, you know?
Certain
It's
things
just
like that
Yeah.
though cause me anxiety because Cord one year, gosh, it was years ago, he had helped me move into an apartment, and my grandmother had given me some like vintage wine glasses, and some of them got broke, and he felt responsible for it and felt really bad for it. And so for a Valentine's Day, he hand painted wine glasses for me, and like he did it with so I'm super obsessed with bears, and he did the bear constellation, and so all 4 of them are a set that have a portion of the constellation on them.
That's so
There's
cute.
I mean, it was one of the most thoughtful gifts ever, and
That
it
makes me want to cry.
I know it means so much to me, but I literally never use them because I'm terrified they'll break, and one of them has a crack in it, and so they never come out of the box because they mean so much to me that I just never, it's just I'm terrified of them shattering and not having them anymore.
I don't have that.
We need to think
I'm
of
like,
a way.
I will use my nicest stuff because it was this one time I saw like this girl, and I don't know if it was like her and like a bunch of other people or if she was just starting it. She made this video on Instagram or YouTube where she basically the message was like, why do you wait to carry your nicest purse? Why do you wait to put on your nicest shoes? Like waiting for that special moment. And she was like, first of all, what if that special moment never comes?
Yeah.
Second of all, why do you feel like you are not worth that every single day?
Yeah.
And I was like,
yeah.
and so I was like, I'm going to use the nice glasses. I'm going to wear the nice purse.
Yeah.
I'm going to buy the nice shoes and wear them, like.
I'm like that with everything else. But
Really?
this, I'm like, if these get messed up, part of my heart goes with it.
Yeah. That
kind
makes
of
sense.
thing.
Aww.
Because he made them for me, and it just makes it so much more.
There's a difference between meaningful and then like just nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I understand that.
Yeah.
Totally.
But so I don't know what his love language is though. Like honestly, I think he's probably more quality time and maybe more words of affirmation. But I don't know. And if you ask him, he won't tell you.
Girl.
Like he's not like if he were sitting here having this conversation right now, he would have lasted all of 5 minutes because all of this stuff to him is just like dumb. But
same with Sam.
Yeah.
I know I'm so words of affirmation because if you say something about my physical appearance, whatever, we're women, we're used to that, you know what I'm saying? But if you compliment me and be like, hey, wow, you did a really great job on that project, like I'm really impressed with your work on that, you thought about this and this and that, and that's really great, I will literally be like, I'm set for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
I feel loved for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Goodbye.
Yeah. I'm definitely like that with work. Like for sure. Like I feel so much more fulfilled whenever somebody, like I don't want to, sorry to my coworkers, but I don't want to spend quality time with y'all. But you know what I mean? It's like, there's some of them, we'll hang out and all of that, but it's just different where in a work setting, I'm going to feel so, because words of affirmation is definitely my second. Like, tell me that I've done a good job. I don't want you to like send an email to everybody being like, look what you did, but to like acknowledge, good job.
Yeah, I feel like
nice.
whenever you announce it, it kind of becomes more about you complimenting the person than like the actual person that you're complimenting.
Yeah. And I appreciate it when people are just upfront about things too.
Yes.
And I think that goes into words of affirmation to an extent that
just be real.
Yeah. Like I just appreciate it whenever somebody's really honest. Like my boss will tell you now, like in the very beginning when I first came in, my boss and then like her second under her were very upfront about like, we're not good at remembering birthdays. We're not good at like, saying good job and stuff, but it's not because you haven't done a good job, and it's not because we don't care about it. It's just we're really bad at doing these things. And it like to me that means a lot because it's not like I'm sitting, because I've had previous bosses that will purposefully withhold things or and it's like it kind of gives you a little bit of a trauma going into it. So just have somebody acknowledge like, I'm really bad at this. Yeah. And I recognize that that's valued by people.
And it's not a reflection of you.
It's not. It's just who I am. I'm like, okay, well, cool. Then I'm not going to like feel bad if I'm not getting that from you or like expect that from you because that's just who you are. Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, I think we've tackled about as much as we can.
Yeah. More than we need to probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, to end this out, what are y'all looking forward to this week?
I'm looking forward to the possibility of snow.
Snow in Texas is kind of a big deal.
So I'm looking forward to a possibility of a snow day, and hopefully my husband can work from home or just be off.
Yeah.
And we can have a snow day.
Yeah.
I'd have to look at my calendar to tell you what I'm looking forward to because I can't remember anything. I am taking my cat to the vet on Wednesday, though.
Is that when you're doing the testing?
Yeah. Because she's having some issues with her lungs, and so we are getting some tests run, and I'm looking forward to
getting answers
and next steps and stuff like that. So
you'll have to keep us updated.
Plan.
Yes, action plan, exactly. Fun fact, the program that I'm over in my company, it's part of what I do, is called the action plan.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to the weekend. My life is so simple right now that I'm just looking forward to the weekend. And I try not to be the kind of person that like spends their weeks like,
living for the weekend.
Living for the weekend, but that's literally what I'm doing right now because it's as of right now, I just cannot get a whole lot done in the evenings.
Yes.
And I've had some like productive evenings and everything, but like last week I went to bed at probably 8 or 9 every night, which is not normal for me, but that's just kind of where I'm at right now. So just looking forward to the weekend, and sometimes that's all it is. That's all it has to be.
I feel like I'm the same way. Like whenever I'm looking forward to the weekend, it's not because I'm like, oh my God, I'm so miserable. I just want to be in the weekend. It's like, I can't freaking get enough done during the week.
Yeah.
I just want my own time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like not worrying about anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like the weekend, you can just wake up and you can just enjoy your day.
Don't have to check your email.
Which I am packing on the weekends right now for my move. But at the same time, it's like I have so much more time to worry about that. It's like I look forward to the weekend because I have more time to worry.
Oh gosh.
Versus, for some reason I don't have enough time during the week to do that already. I don't know. It's so goofy, but yeah, this is me. I'm just looking forward to Saturday.
Yeah.
Friday night, Saturday.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for hanging out with us again for this week's episode of the Womanly Podcast. Be sure to follow us on all of our social media to hang out with us in between episodes and see pieces of our conversations that we don't get to include in these episodes, plus all of our bloopery humanness. We're on Instagram at Womanly Pod and TikTok, YouTube, and Twitter at Womanly Podcast. We hope to hang out with you more there. Have a super womanly week.